Yeah, this is me. You're probably wondering how I got here. It all started one day when I got a phone call while on the subway from my friend. He told me to meet him in the park. And then I went to the hospital. And then some weird things happened. And you won't believe how weird things got. Hello, fellow Magatamas, and welcome to Fusion Accidents, the show where I talk about short things shortly. Today we're going to cover what the Magatama scene was really all about. Okay, first things first, let's set the scene. In the first act of Nocturne, you go to the hospital in Shinjuku to visit your teacher. Hijinks ensue, including but not limited to buying a tasty beverage or two, going to a park, and getting a copy of National Enquirer from some weirdo, and getting said magazine stolen by your rich friend who could afford her own copy. You explore the hospital a bit, but end up on the roof watching the world end with your teacher. Shortly after, this little boy dangles a bug that does all kinds of crazy shenanigans on its way to your body. This is something that literally doesn't matter, but where in the body did that little worm go? So I asked this question on Twitter, and it kind of went like this. Most of you assumed it went into either his eye or mouth, with some of you thinking it went into his nose, and then lastly, the smallest portion of you thinking it went into his navel. So that sounds kind of weird, right? The camera logically functions as Demifiend's eyes. The Magatama flies down in that direction, and you get the veins once the foul beast makes contact, which is reminiscent of a cornea. However, when playing the game, the word choice used when talking about consuming the Magatama is the word ingest. You ingest the Magatama, at least every subsequent one after the worm named Marogare. So, if you want to be technical, ingest doesn't exclusively mean eat, but are we really gonna argue that he's absorbing the worms? Like just rubbing them all over his body or something? No, we aren't, because suffice to say, I have cracked this little mystery that literally no one cares about or thought about as a mystery. First off, no, he does not swallow it. Bro, if a little kid came up to you and was like, "Hey God, time to eat a worm," I'd be like, no. I'd clench my jaw and I'd probably just be like, "Ugh, ugh." But I guess that's what the lady in black is for. I guess she would just like tickle me and I'd be like, ha 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 ha. And then I guess the worm would go slippy slime down my throat. I mean, I imagine laying there and Lucifer wants you to eat a worm and you're like, "Not today, Lucy." And maybe the lady in black is just like, crazy daydream aside, I found in the Ayakasha monthly book included in the Nocturne HD Remaster Collector's Edition, actually, that there's a little bit of explanation here. And to preface this a little, this book is written from Hijiri's perspective, so this writing style is meant to be Hijiri's writing style. Here's what it says. A demon parasite, the one who turned our collaborator into a demon. It was the blonde child who turned our collaborator into a demon. It does not look like a living thing, but it seems to be a parasite that gives demonic powers. There are many types of Magatama. Each one has its own unique abilities. Each one of them gave Hitoshira unique abilities, so they were able to fight demons. At first glance, it looks like a nautilus or fossil, but it is a whirling organism. Of course, there are no ordinary creatures left in this Tokyo. It is also a demon like an insect. It's usually curled up and motionless. When approached by a worthy opponent, the demon will quickly move like a snake and move inside the opponent's body. If it is a human being, it can enter through the navel as well as through openings such as wounds and sores. It is only when they enter that there is crazy pain. Once inside the body, the parasite does not harm the host body and continues to live for a long time. There is not much clinical data, and the process seems to be limited to human beings. The parasite sends demonic power to the host. The demon power is sent from the parasite to the host to promote demonization. I've heard there are very few cases of human consciousness remaining. The swirling shape resembles the Magatama that was once unearthed as an ancient Japanese relic from ruins. However, it is clear that there is a connection between the name Magatama and the abilities that it gave to Hitoshira. So that all really just quite plainly says a few things. First, Magatama only respond to a worthy host, meaning that we might not have even gotten a Demifiend if you put that worm in front of a Samu or Chiaki. It's a parasite, which I think is pretty obvious. And another thing I found interesting is that it'll continue to live for a long time, meaning that it implies some sort of death cycle to the Magatama, so maybe after 100 or so years, maybe it'll just die off or something. Oh, and let's not forget this bit. When approached by a worthy opponent, the demon will move quickly like a snake and move inside the opponent's body. If it is a human being, it can enter through the navel as well as through openings such as wounds and sores. It is only when they enter that there is crazy pain. This definitely says that it does indeed enter his navel. Now, does it always do that? Or does he at some point take Magatama orally? We don't know. The book doesn't express this end well. It just seems inherently more convenient instead of grabbing a worm from the store and then laying on the floor and being like, okay, little buddy, get in there. Now, I wonder why it would be the navel where the Magatama ventures to begin with. And because of how integral Buddhist concepts are to Nocturne and to Megaten in general, I decided to look into it from that perspective. One thing I found was the third chakra, Manipura, or the navel chakra, the lustrous gem. Manipura is associated with the power of transformation. It is represented by a 10-petal lotus. You can see that image reflected somewhat abstractly on Demifiend's tum-tum. So it actually does indeed make sense from a lore perspective. Yes, I did waste quite a few minutes of your time just to tell you that the Magatama does indeed go in his tummy. So there you have it. It goes in his belly because that's symbolism for transformation, and I think that's really nice. I think that even if you're taking it at superficial face value, that kind of imagery and that kind of symbolism is kind of interesting. It's one of those things where you probably would get it right away if you knew a lot about Buddhism or you had at least some Buddhist background, but unfortunately a lot of that stuff is lost in the West, and it hurts, and it's because Buddhism. I do hope my millions of videos on Nocturne have changed how you think about Nocturne, because for me, that is very much the case. Now go ahead and tell me how you would consume the Magatama. Thanks for watching, like this video, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, follow me in real life, and goodbye, fellow Megatenists.